All right, man, peace. So, up-and-coming NFL superstar quarterback DeShaun Watson recently tore his ACL. He is now out for the season. He was having a tremendous season up to now for the Houston Texans. They're going to talk about it. Of course, I'm going to chime in.
Huge injury news in the NFL. DeShaun Watson done for the season. Adam Schefter is in studio with the latest. What do the Texans do now? Andrew Luck also done for the season. Is it already time for the Colts to start thinking about life after their franchise quarterback?
I don't believe that Andrew Luck is going to be playing football for very long. I think that he is a great talent, but I also think that he has a lot of other interests, and I think that it's going to dawn on him that what he's doing to his body in regards to his style of play and in regards to his psychological makeup. Andrew Luck, by nature, he suffers from the martyrdom complex, meaning he likes to throw himself on the grenade. He's one of those guys who's going to go above and beyond to prove to himself and his teammates that he's ready to go above and beyond. And that can be very, very dangerous if you're playing quarterback, because you have to be, your mindset has to be that you're going to see the big picture. Sometimes you have to avoid the big hit. Sometimes you have to slide. Sometimes you have to get out of bounds. Sometimes you have to give up on that play. You have to get outside the hash marks and just throw the ball away. And Andrew Luck is not willing to play like that. So, some of the injuries that he's gotten, like the kidney injuries and the rib injuries and, some of the injuries that he's gotten, organ injuries, those things are going to last him for his entire life. Okay? The injuries that he's gotten, are going to come back on him as he gets older.
Now, life is certainly pretty good for the world champion Houston Astros right now, but is last night's championship the first of many to come? Good news, America. You're about to be rewarded with the best 60 minutes of your day. We've got a lot of ground to cover today, so let's not delay at all. By far, the biggest story of the day is DeShaun Watson.
His phenomenal rookie season is over after 6 starts and 19 touchdown passes. First reported by NFL Network and confirmed by Adam Schefter, the Texans rookie and the league leader in total QBR suffered a torn ACL running a routine read option in practice today. Now, we first got word that something was wrong when Watson appeared on the Texans injury report as a limited participant in Thursday's practice with a knee injury. John McClain of the Houston Chronicle initially reported it to be a sore knee, and it was thought to be not serious enough to keep him out of the Colts game.
What that tells me is that he most likely partially injured that knee earlier in the season and been playing with it. And then, of course, it eventually tore. That happens with a lot of athletes. They strain an Achilles or they strain a certain ligament in their knee and they keep playing through it and eventually it tears. I have little doubt about that because the way that they describe it, it seems like something that incrementally got worse.
A further examination and test on site revealed that the non-contact injury resulted in a tear. Tom Savage finished practice and is back as the Texans starting QB. Adam.
A lot of times, especially with the Achilles, when you hear athletes talk about the Achilles, they always say the same thing. Like it feels like they, something just popped and automatically they just fell to the ground. Like they thought somebody kicked them in the back of the leg. That's how they always describe it. But preceding the rupturing of the Achilles, they'll oftentimes tell you that they had a sore Achilles. If you brothers remember, DeShaun Watson oftentimes would wear a knee brace while he was at Clemson. Now, I'm not sure if the knee that has the torn ACL is the same knee that he wore the brace on in his last year with Clemson, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm not going to tell the brother that he should change his style of playing. I think that his running and his mobility is part of what makes him such a dynamic package at quarterback. But he is going to have to consider wearing that brace for the rest of his career, especially if he has some frailties in his knee. Some people are just cursed like that.
Adam Schefter, what more can you add?
Obviously a devastating blow to a city that now, in the span of 24 hours, celebrated its first World Series championship and now loses the quarterback who is leading the NFL in touchdown passes, who had brought a jolt of energy to the NFL, who had provided a distraction in a year where the NFL needed one.
Well, I'm glad that he said that because that's what sports is meant to be. Sports is meant to be a distraction. Okay? And as I've stated in the past, sports is also a mechanism to reveal certain components or aspects of human nature. That's why it galvanizes people. That's why people gravitate towards it. Because once again, you get to see how people can work in concert with each other. You get to see certain frailties in people. You get to see certain strengths, right? Who gives up, who folds up, who's willing to sacrifice themselves. Things of that nature. Sports is a microcosm of life. That's why people like it. You know, sometimes people get really sanctimonious. Oh, I don't watch sports because it's all rigged and it's all. Look, dude. I mean, look, I've already said that. I've already stated this in the past. The everything is rigged crowd. Oftentimes, those are people who are trying to make themselves feel a little bit smarter than they really are. Is a certain component of sports contrived or coordinated? Of course. You have certain officials who are in the pockets of mobsters or gamblers. You have certain teams or certain players that they would like to promote. So, of course, the best way to promote players is to have them win championships. There are certain narratives that have to be continued. But overall, do I believe, and I've stated this already numerous times, do I believe that they want to bring in number 4, who's sitting fourth from the end of the bench when they're down by 4 points with 4 minutes left to get a 4-point play? No, I don't believe that. I'm sorry. But anyway.
A player who not only was competing for the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, but also, I think you can make the argument, could have been the MVP.
He was so big time that primetime Deion Sanders said it was his MVP just today.
So there you go. And we've got a player here who went out to practice, and about halfway through that practice today, goes down. There was no yell that he let out. There was no audible gasp amongst the rest of the players.
This wasn't Teddy Bridgewater.
This was not Teddy Bridgewater.
Thank goodness. Because from what I heard about Teddy Bridgewater, that was a horrific injury. That man, I believe they said he had a dislocated knee, something like that. Like when they say you have a dislocated knee, that basically means that it's very similar to the injury that Kevin Ware had in regards to the look of it, except at the knee. Like your knee basically collapsed in. So, I mean, that man could have died from that. There's another player with the Chicago Bears who I believe had a very gruesome knee injury this past Sunday. And when they described the aftermath of the injury, they stated that he was in stable condition at the hospital. So that shows you that those type of knee injuries, those severe knee injuries where you have nerve damage and dislocation of the knee joint and of the knee in and of itself, those are very, very gruesome and oftentimes borderline life-threatening injuries.
The trainers came over, they walked him off the field. Nobody thought this was what it turned out to be at the time. They did studies right on the spot. The ACL tear was confirmed. He's being placed on injured reserve. He's out for the year. They're signing Matt McGloin, the former Raiders quarterback.
In-state connection with Bill O'Brien.
In-state connection. And now Tom Savage goes back to starting on Sunday against the Colts.
And I think it's going to end up being a good thing for DeShaun in the long run. He's going to have a chance to really sit back, and after he's been put into the fire for the first 7 games, he understands the speed of the NFL game. He knows that he can still dominate at this level. You know, he'll have a chance to get a proverbial bird's eye view of the game, go over film, sit back, and take a lot less punishment. And now Houston knows what they have, and hopefully they'll be smart enough to invest in their offensive line, get him a serviceable running back, and try to, take a step forward. They were 3-4. It wasn't like they were 6-1 or, 5-2. They had no chance of winning a Super Bowl. Their secondary is terrible, as anyone could see by the performance in Seattle, where Russell Wilson, although Russell is a great, great quarterback, he was just throwing the ball unadulterated all around the field to wide receivers that really are, a little bit above average. Russell does not have a great receiving core, but they basically almost gave up 500 yards to him. But anyway.
When you watched DeShaun Watson play on Sunday against Seattle, it seemed like such a long time ago that Tom Savage was ever the Houston Texans starting quarterback. And now he's back there because DeShaun Watson has suffered arguably the most devastating injury this NFL season.
Well, to that.
I wouldn't go that far. I say that the most devastating injury is probably Odell, honestly. But I guess you could throw Andrew Luck in there as well. But who knows how good they'd be with Andrew Luck? They weren't that good with him when he was last playing. I think that the league is starting to kind of catch up to Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck there's going to be a great referendum placed on him when he does come back to evaluate how good he actually is, because I think that a lot of his detractors are starting to get emboldened to speak against him. He had a lot of things going for him when he first came out of Stanford. Of course, he came out of Stanford, so people assume that he's naturally extremely intelligent. He was given a lot of credit for things. He was given a lot of leeway to make mistakes. And, now I think that he's going to be held to a higher level of criticism. So we'll see.
To that point, and just a couple of days ago, you had Richard Sherman saying by next year, Watson was going to be a top 5 quarterback. And now Richard Sherman and a lot of players are reacting with a lot of sympathy and a lot of sadness around the league, which we'll show you in a moment. But you mentioned, Adam, can you recall a more negative NFL season when it comes to initially quality of games, the ongoing anthem demonstration controversy and disagreement as it relates to the job that the commissioner is doing? There's labor peace, but far from peace around the league, and that's just off the field for the most part. On the field, I mentioned quality of games, and when I was young, I used to play Madden NFL on PlayStation and like the franchise mode. I wish I could hit the reset button on this season. Joe Thomas for the first time in his career.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers. How did I forget that one? Oh, that's definitely the most devastating injury of the season. I'm sorry. It definitely ain't DeShaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers, that's the most devastating injury of the season. Aaron Rodgers is the best player in the National Football League. And it's really not even that close. Tom Brady, for people who understand that Tom Brady might be the best quarterback, but Aaron Rodgers is the best overall player. And, people might be quizzical of that statement. Tom Brady, and, for what he does and his great understanding of, Tom Brady is like a guy who's been making pizzas for 50 years. He could do it blindfolded. Aaron Rodgers is like a jack of all trades who's great at everything. But Tom Brady is great at that one thing that he does, which is being in the pocket and surgically tearing apart a defense. Like, he's just a master of what he does. Aaron Rodgers is he's a wonderkind. He's just a freak.
David Johnson, Eric Berry again, Andrew Luck, who we'll talk about in a second. He's on IR. Jason Peters and Darren Sproles for the 8-1 Philadelphia Eagles. Odell Beckham Jr., Aaron Rodgers, Julian Edelman just coming off one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history. J.J. Watt, and now DeShaun Watson in Houston. Another dynamic rookie, Dalvin Cook. The number of injuries that the league has seen this season, I just wish there was such a thing in real life as a reset button.
Well, look, let me say this. The athletes today are bigger, stronger, and faster than they've ever been. The way that they accelerate into each other is more violent than ever. When I first started watching football in late 89, 90, you had great athletes, but they were not as violent in regards to their movements as they are today. The receivers back then were like 190 pounds. The big receivers were like 190 pounds. The big receivers today go like 225, 230. Like, that's how big the linebackers were back in like 1989, 1990. Like, you look at a guy like a Kelvin Benjamin. That's like linebacker size back in, 89, 90.
That I could just press right now and start this season over. It just keeps getting worse.
You said, has there been a season like this? And I would say 2014, during all the domestic violence incidents, it was as bad, if not worse, than this. But
at least you didn't have the quality of game conversation going on. And I don't remember ratings being so prominent in the discussions as well.
Well, you're taking...
Well, why would you wonder about the ratings when shows like yours are very integral in lowering the ratings of the NFL, when you constantly try to inject your super liberal propaganda into the overall narrative of the NFL season? This is what I mean when I say, like I told you brothers before, ESPN is biting the hand that feeds it. These idiots are trying to perpetuate a narrative that is going to come back and bite them in the backside. When the NFL decides that, you know what, we may need to end our partnership with ESPN. What is going to happen? What is going to happen when ESPN loses $5 to $6 billion in revenue from the NFL? What do you think is going to happen? They're going to have to seriously downsize. It would not surprise me at all if it happens. I believe that ESPN will fight tooth and nail to keep the NFL, but it would not shock me if, when the smoke clears and these owners decide to totally wreck shop, that they decide to end their relationship with ESPN. I mean, let's be for real. ESPN really only broadcasts the Monday night games, which are probably at this point the least illustrious of the games during the week. So, it would not surprise me after the things that ESPN has done, their hijinks. Now, ESPN is like a chick who thinks that she can't get dumped, and she just keeps acting a fool.
Young stars that people want to watch, and you're wiping them out, and they're not there to watch.
Yep.
And I know that the one thing that owners really worry about is losing quarterbacks and losing ratings. Now, we could argue about why ratings are down,
Sure,
and debate that all day long. The fact of the matter is, injuries to quarterbacks have a direct correlation on ratings. But beyond that, you feel sick for this young man who basically represented so much of what was good in a season that had gone bad.
Yeah.
We saw him giving his first game check to the workers in the Houston cafeteria to help rebuild their lives after Hurricane Harvey. We saw what he's meant, the way that he conducted himself, the manner he handled himself.
Yeah, I also saw him running around with the former porn star Mia Khalifa. So, I just hope that DeShaun he keeps his head on straight, man. There's too much pussy in the world for you to be running around with a chick that done had more trains ran on her than damn Grand Central Station. Like, come on.
And to see somebody like that wiped out for this year is just devastating.
And off the top, they're just celebrating, coming off of Hurricane Harvey,
Right.
just celebrating that city's first World Series. The team, I don't think the Astros have arrived back in Houston yet. They should be arriving maybe within the hour or less. And now the news that their future Pro Bowl MVP quarterback done for the year.
Hey, shit happens. Believe me, there's people with far worse problems than DeShaun Watson. DeShaun Watson has a very, very bright future ahead of him, God willing, as long as he doesn't make any bad decisions or the Most High does not have any calamities planned for his future that he cannot control. There are far worse things that are happening to people on an everyday basis. The brother is just going through a little stumbling block that he's going to have to turn into a stepping stone. That's a part of life. You turn a negative into a positive. That's why I say this will give him time to sit back, recalibrate himself, go over film, see all the interceptions that he threw. Why did he throw them? What are the defenses suckering him into doing? You sit back and you try to figure out how to maximize your talent and your potential and utilize all the weapons that you have on your team. And he'll come back bigger, better, and stronger next year. That's how you have to look at it.
19 touchdown passes when the rookie
Because they wouldn't win no championship this year anyway.
record is 26, Jamel.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a sports story, what was happening in that city was pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
Between the Astros, the Rockets, getting Chris Paul, and then now you have this. So just a major setback for the team and for the city. Okay, now let's recap how dynamite DeShaun Watson has been for the Texans this season. It all started in the season opener when Watson replaced Tom Savage to start the second half. He led the Texans down the field for a score on his first drive. He got his first start the next game against the Bengals on Thursday night. He scored the only touchdown of the game on a 49-yard run, leading the Texans to a win. In week 4, it was clear the Texans had found their franchise guy. Watson accounted for 5 scores in a 57-14 win over the Titans as he became the third rookie in NFL history with 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown in the game. And last week against Seattle in what might have been the most entertaining game of the season, he was the first player in NFL history with 400 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and 50 rushing yards.
Yeah, that was probably the most entertaining game of the season until their coach, the Houston Texan coach, blew the game by having them run the ball on 3rd and 5. Look, let me tell you something, man. A coach can definitely lose the game for you. The reason what makes a great coach great is preparation and those moments in key situations. What does he decide to do? Does he show forethought, or is he just going moment by moment? Because a coach cannot operate moment by moment. High-level thinkers, which is what a coach has to be, they have to operate like a chess master. They have to already have a plan what they're going to do. And on the road in Seattle, the things that you have to consider is how well your defense is playing, how well the opposing quarterback is playing, as well as the score and the situation. If I'm Bill O'Brien, I have to have DeShaun Watson make a play for our team to win that game. I cannot count on our running back to get 5 yards or to just run the clock down and think our defense is going to hold Russell Wilson. I mean, he sliced through them like a hot knife through butter. That was pathetic. That was pathetic. That is how a coach stops you from making the playoffs.
In a game, a unbelievable talent. Thank you for joining us, Teddy. The I mean, they've already lost to J.J. Watt.
You're just sick to your stomach, right?
I know. Now they lose their franchise quarterback.
And the NFL needed DeShaun Watson too. Right now, they need as many positive storylines as they can generate, because the liberal media, specifically networks like ESPN, are in overdrive trying to tear down the NFL. So they needed somebody like a DeShaun Watson as a subplot.
As a player, if you're in that locker room seeing two of your best players go down, how are you feeling right now about this season, the mood around the team? Give us some insight.
Everything in your mind tonight, as you go to bed and you think about the season, you'll have a little bit of that woe is me initially. Why us? I mean, but just that you know what it looked like and you know what it could be. From the offensive side of the ball, when you have somebody like DeShaun Watson scoring 30 points a game from you, defensively, offensively, everybody just feels energized. Mm-hmm. So I'll say this, I mean, it's okay for the players to feel that way tonight, but tomorrow morning's meeting for Bill O'Brien, it's crucial. It's crucial how he handles it. It's crucial what he says to them. He should read the list that you just read of all the other players and say, it's not just us.
Season doesn't stop.
It's not just us.
And nobody's going to feel sorry for you.
He needs to say the standings in the AFC South, how everybody's still close right there, and how everything.
Look, Bill O'Brien ain't going to have shit to say. He's not really a good leader. He was a good offensive coordinator. He's not going to have much to say. They're 3-4. They are in a bad division. So, I mean, the thing right now, if you're a member of the Houston Texans, you say to yourself, well, we were 3-4, but if we could have made the playoffs with a quarterback like this, we could have had a magic carpet ride, because there are no dominant teams in the AFC right now. Kansas City looked dominant earlier in the season, but they kind of came back down to earth. New England is like 6-2, 5-2, 6-2, whatever they are. They have the best quarterback in the NFL, but their defense is horrific. And the Texans almost beat them there earlier this season. So, I mean, you have Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is very good, but they're so emotionally unstable. You never know what type of performance that you're going to get from them. Plus, Roethlisberger is clearly on the other side of it. So if you can get a bad performance from him, you could definitely beat them. So, I mean, if you're Houston, those are the regrets that you're looking at. But I don't see this as a big setback for them. I think that that this can almost be good for him. It will allow him to sit back and improve the mental aspect of the game that he needs, because the physical part is more than there.
These other teams, they're getting hurt also. Everybody along the league, those are big names you're talking about, yes, but he has got to rally these troops with what he says tomorrow. The players, it may take them a little while, but as long as they don't look towards those coaches, and those coaches don't look like they feel the same way, because they have to come out with a lot of energy tomorrow to these players and prove to them that they're still in it to win.
And just specifically for this particular franchise, we talked about Houston and the community of Houston off of Hurricane Harvey and what the Astros just did and what the Rockets could do. Just specifically for this franchise, right, to have come off a week where the latest installment of the anthem demonstration controversy started with their owner's comments about not letting the inmates run the prison.
Yeah, something that was not that big a deal, and you liberal idiots decided you were going to blow up to continue your narrative.
In an NFL meeting about the anthem demonstrations, you have...
And oh yeah, didn't they have another meeting on Halloween on October 31st? I wonder, how did that go? I didn't hear anything about that. Nothing out of that meeting. Did Kaepernick attend? Wasn't he invited, supposedly? Didn't the players invite him again? I wonder if he attended. I guess not, because I didn't hear anything about it. No. But then again, if he did, one of you brothers, please correct me.
Players collectively taking a knee when they hadn't done that out of respect for Bob McNair. Then Dwayne Brown, who was holding out, he is traded. That's
one of the most beloved players.
One of the most beloved players, Pro Bowl left tackle. He's traded to Seattle on Tuesday. He had been outspoken about Bob McNair. Well,
then he should be happy. He's going to the woke capital of the NFL. He can go out to Seattle and everybody can be woke and hold their right hand up in the air. The right hand, by the way, the right hand is for communism. I've already stated that before. And as I've been telling you, brothers, for the longest time, communism is just a cover, a facade for Luciferianism. When you go back to the ancient cultures, you'll oftentimes see the statuette of Baal with the right fist in the air.
You just lost a tough game at Seattle, and now already, you know, with apologies to J.J. Watt, who's on IR, right alongside him, already one of the faces of your franchise is out for the season. So he better be one hell of a speech giver for my Bill O'Brien.
That's snowball.
What he's dealing with right now, and now this. When it rains, it's definitely forward.
It doesn't matter. You're really in a no-lose situation. Right now they're 3-4. Even if they lose their next 9 games, who cares? All that means is that you position yourself in the draft to get much needed help for that team. They need a corner. They need obviously a left tackle. No, they may need a linebacker. I mean, they need a lot of things. And plus, you don't know how J.J. Watt is going to look. His body's starting to break down. He's been injured now for like 3 straight seasons, heavily injured. So, I mean, who knows? This could be a blessing in disguise. I would not be running around trying to salvage anything. You just play out the season. The best thing that could happen to them is if they lose out. Because now they can come back, they can draft, they can bring DeShaun back healthy, and they can start anew next year. Because they do need some help on that offensive line, and they need a running back as well.
He's got an avalanche, not just a little snowball going downhill. But, I mean, I remember losing the Super Bowl to the New York Giants. We're 18-1, we lose it. We're 18-0,
This motherfucker's never going to get over that shit. This man still suffered from post-traumatic stress off that damn game. I'll never forget that game.
We lose it. We're 18-1. Next year, opening game, Tom Brady goes down.
Yeah.
The mental toughness of a player in the NFL is constantly tested. And even more so this year, and probably even more so than any other team with the Houston Texans and everything they've been going through. So their mental toughness.
They always come in with all this shit, everything they've been going through. You know, people get so caught up with these sports media narratives, what these guys have been going through. There's people out here who don't know how they're going to pay their rent next month. These motherfuckers talking about everything they've been going through because, you know, their billionaire boss who's made them all millionaires says that that you should not let prisoners run the prison. Like, who gives a fuck? That they're not going through shit. All they are is a bunch of spoiled, pampered, rich dudes who don't know how to handle adversity very well, semi-adversity.
Toughness is on test.
Whitley Merciless as well. It's another Texan you can't ignore. So one of the signature, or one of the definitive images, I guess, was, I think it was after the Tennessee game. I don't remember which game, but DeShaun Watson showed up to the podium wearing a throwback Warren Moon jersey.
Yeah, and Warren Moon, we have a tweet from him. We also have him on the phone. He's about to join us. But first, let's look at what he tweeted. My heart goes out to DeShaun Watson on the news of injuring his ACL. Adversity is part of football. You will conquer it.
Warren Moon was one of the great throwers of the football to ever touch down in the NFL. Phenomenal thrower of the football. The quarterback of the offense that was the forerunner of a lot of the offenses used today, known as the run and shoot. For brothers who remember back in the early 90s, you know, it was Warren Moon. They had Ernest Givens, Haywood Jeffries. I'm trying to remember who else was receiver out there for them. But they could never win the big game in the playoffs. And Warren would throw a lot of big interceptions in big spots.
Big time. And now joining us on the phone, Warren Moon, as you mentioned, Mike, one of the most celebrated figures in Houston history. Warren, just give us your reaction to this devastating...
Freakish natural athlete to Warren Moon. That's why he was able to play into his early 40s.
Injury news involving DeShaun Watson.
Yeah, Jamel, I was completely shocked and just really sick about it. You know, what a bittersweet day for the city of Houston. You win the World Series last night. Everybody's excited. And then all of a sudden you lose the future of your football team, DeShaun Watson, who's having one of the outstanding seasons of any quarterback in the league, to an injury in practice. And it's just something that you just don't think is going to happen to a player of his caliber.
And what I like about DeShaun also is that you can tell he's very, very well put together mentally. When you see him speak, he's extremely composed. Composure is the main thing that you need at quarterback. And he has that. That's natural. That's not something that you could teach, i.e. Cam Newton. Cam Newton has never been composed, will never be composed. DeShaun Watson is composed at all times. Mentally, he's very, very well put together. So, people who follow the Texans, they should be very thankful that they have him. Hopefully he can stay healthy.
Young guy, especially to have it happen in practice, but this is the reality of it. He's going to have to deal with it. The city's going to have to deal with it. The team is going to have to deal with it. But knowing DeShaun, and I haven't known him a long time, but what I know about him, he's going to conquer this as well as anybody. He's going to attack it, and he's going to get himself back and ready to play again. But what a devastating blow to this football team.
Yeah, no, anybody knows his story, and he and his mother were blessed with a house from Warwick Dunn's foundation. Character is certainly not an issue for DeShaun Watson, who has torn an ACL before.
Warwick Dunn, last name Dunn is another Scottish name, which means black, by the way, or man of color. But that's a whole other issue that I'll be covering when I get to it.
Toward in Clemson, so we know what he's made of inside. But what would you tell? We just heard Teddy Bruschi talking about how the rest of that team has to carry on now, having lost J.J. Watt, Whitley Merciless, and now DeShaun Watson. What would you say to the rest of that team and how it's rallying around a guy in Tom Savage who got a half before he was benched for this hotshot rookie?
Yeah, you know, everybody's going to have the mentality of that next man up mentality. The next guy has got to perform, but this team has to feel like they're a little bit snake bitten because of the number of talented players that have gone down on their football team this year. But they have no choice but to rally the troops and get all the support they possibly can around Tom Savage. He's their guy now, and they're going to have to make things work for him.
They're not going to make shit work. All they're going to do, they're going to play out the rest of the season, try to get as high a first-round draft pick as they can, and bring in as much talent as they can to work with DeShaun Watson next year. That's what they're going to do if they're smart.
And I think Bill O'Brien's going to have to change some of the things he does offensively because he can't do some of the things he did with DeShaun for Tom Savage. And
he can't do any of the things that he did with DeShaun for Tom Savage. Tom Savage is a backup quarterback. All he's going to be doing is throwing a lot of checkdowns. He won't even be able to get the ball to Hopkins anymore.
Going to have to protect him a little bit better, and Tom's going to have to understand he's got to get rid of the football. He can't sit in the pocket like he used to and have a clock in his hand. So there's a lot of things that have to be adjusted in a very short period of time for the Houston Texans, but hopefully they can get it all turned around.
All right, Warren, we appreciate the time and certainly look forward to speedy recovery for DeShaun Watson and his ability to come back and carry on the legacy of Houston quarterbacks. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
All right, so that's pretty much it on that. But God bless the brother DeShaun Watson. Hopefully he has a speedy and very healthy recovery. And hopefully he'll continue on in the gifts that the Most High gave him, particularly with his mental composure. That's the main thing, man. With quarterbacks, it's not so much about how strong their arm is and all those other things, or even how well they can run and escape the pocket. It's really about mental composure. That's the one thing that all great quarterbacks have in common, no matter their physical gifts. That's what Joe Montana had. That's why they called him Joe Cool. All right? And I see that in DeShaun Watson. So we'll see. But anyway, peace.